In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court in Brown v. Board of Education ruled that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. The black struggle for racial equality affected all minorities, including women. In 1963, Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders organized a march in Washington, D.C. to support a civil rights bill presented to Congress by the White House.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
For you to make the team and to get to play was, I mean, really an accomplishment in and of itself. And so for us to do that and do it as Hispanics in the 60s in South Texas, it was just
awesome.
A big accomplishment.
I think it was the beginning, really the beginning of Hispanics playing basketball. And as much fun as we had with the team, and as much as we respected our coaches, there were issues we had to deal with.
In school as well as in other areas of our life. You know, you're talking about going to Arkansas, and we had to use the colored people's water fountains, their bathrooms. And so this is why it was harder for the older ones, because back then the discrimination was tremendous.
I never let it affect me. Just decided that I was going to play basketball, and basketball was the love of my life back then. Cheerleading and basketball. And I don't know, it was there, but I was just going to show them that I was good enough that they were going to have to play me. You know, because I loved it so much. It was me, it was my life then. That's all I ever talked about was basketball.
I think that Soyla taught me a big lesson when she said, I'm not going to quit, I'm not going to stop playing, and I'm going to be the best that I can be. And what's real interesting about her nomination, she was nominated by a coach in the Valley that had a reputation, was well known for her feelings for Hispanics, and yet she went past that and nominated Soyla. And it taught me, because like I told you with our parents, we were never ever taught to stop doing something that you were involved with. But I guess like they said, you know, I didn't deal with it like they did. And you know, as the years went by, I looked back and I said, before I ever quit anything again, I will make sure that it's because I want to do it and not because somebody else is making me do it or asking me to do it.
It is true. It is true that they did open doors, because they were first at a lot of things. Tony was the first Panther sweetheart. She was a head cheerleader. She ran for Miss Weslaco. Soyla was the first Hispanic to be named to the North-South All-Star in 1963. When that was unheard of. I mean, it was unheard of for Hispanics to be playing, much less make it to the All-Star game in the whole state of Texas. So from that standpoint, yes, it was easier. But they don't realize how hard they did it for me, because they set a certain standard. And if I didn't meet that standard, I was daily reminded by Desi and Jeannie that I wasn't like my sisters. So I had to do it twice as much, because I had to do it for myself, and I had to keep up their ghost that they left behind. And I tell you what, that determination got me 3 degrees, and it's made me what I am today. You know, you can take the negative and use it as an excuse not to succeed, or you can take it and use it as a springboard to get to where you know you can go.
My group was a very social group. The class of '63, and to this day, the whole class, not just in sports, were very close, and it was a very active group and very social. We'd sing and scream and holler and act up the whole time we were on the bus. Ginny and Desi used to have a problem trying to keep us settled down.
The 1962-63 Pantherettes went 28-5 and won by district. In the regional tournament, they beat Southwest of San Antonio 46-29 to advance to the finals against Cotulla.
I think our whole team just played their heart out. We lost by 3 points, and we were down by 1 point. With just seconds to go, and I fouled out of the game. And we had been behind, like, I don't remember, 15, 16 points at halftime.
How do coaches motivate their players at halftime? Coach Gene Kleckler had this to say.
You point out what their mistakes, and you figured out what kind of offense they have and what kind of defense they're running, and you try to show them with X's and O's on the chalk talks about what they have to do to improve, and just try to motivate them. You know, don't say anything negative. We never said anything negative. And we always had a prayer. We had the sportsman prayer that all of them memorized, and we had that in the dressing room, and we always told them if they were going to cry or they were disappointed, you wait until you get the dressing room, because when you cry in public, you didn't do your best. And don't blame someone else for your mistakes. Don't blame somebody if they're behind 1 point and somebody shoots and they didn't make it. Don't blame it on them, because it's a whole game, not just the last second of the game. And you know, a lot of kids want to blame it on someone else, and it's not any one person's fault, because those kids that sit on the bench, they're just as much a part of that game as anyone.
They had us down, and we went in at halftime and came back out, and we just gave it our all and came back to within 1 point. And it always stayed with me that I've always believed that if you give it 100% or better, regardless of the final score, you're still a winner. You'll always be a winner.
Soyla Reina lettered for 4 years. She made 4 all-tournament teams, 2 all-district, and she was all-regional and was chosen for the South Texas All-Star team by the Texas High School Basketball Coaches Association.
When Soyla was named to the All-Star team, one of my brothers got sick that summer, and so my mother couldn't follow my dad to Arkansas. And so Soyla and I were the ones that got picked that summer to go. And yes. And so we would help our dad get the day going with the workers and everything. And once we did that, Soyla and I, he went to his boss, and his boss went to somebody else. That we were real close to the Missouri state line. And so his boss found us a country gym that looks like the Central Gym. I mean, it wasn't just a little gym. It was a nice gym for a country school out in the middle of nowhere. And so he made arrangements for us to go and work out through my dad. And that's why I say, you know, they didn't come to the games, but as far as support, like Janie was saying, no question about it. So Soyla and I would go and work out, and I practice.
After working all day.
And then we'd go back and we'd continue to do what we needed to do. But he did make those arrangements for us, and we were able for Soyla to work out all summer and be ready for the game. And I tell you how ready she was, because she was selected as a guard to the team, and she was a starting forward at the game.
Desi Hill was a driver's education instructor before she, I think when she was in Santa Rosa or one of her other, but she, in addition to coaching, she was driver's ed instructor. And when she and I were driving to Abilene the summer after my senior year to go up to the All-Star game, I tell you what, I had to have my seatbelt on. I had to have both hands on the steering wheel. I better not move my hands. And we would be talking, and I'd want to turn to look at her, and she'd tell me to turn my face and keep looking at the and we went all the way like that to Abilene in Desi's 1960 Ford Falcon that sometimes would go back instead of up when we were going up some of those hills in in West Texas. But it was a good experience. But that again goes back to what they were talking about earlier about Desi really being a disciplinarian in whatever we did, whether it was sportsmanship, you know, conduct on and off the gym floor, just in life in general. She was a disciplinarian.